What if Pokémon Black and White had DLC? Instead of getting the set of sequel games, how would the story and features of Pokémon Black and White 2 be implemented as DLC to the original games, and what changes would need to be made? Please do note that in a game that focuses on truth and ideals, we will not be discussing the truth. Instead, we will explore what I find ideal for this idea. Since the 4 games would now be reduced down to 2, we need to make some changes to the original Black and White games. First, the rematchable breeders. A major quality of life change that made grinding faster in the sequels will now be placed in the roots of the original games, something that in my opinion should have been there to begin with. Now, the major elephant in the room is Kyurem. Since Kyurem plays a massive role towards the end of Black and White 2's story, we need to make Kyurem inaccessible in the base games. This is so that the plotline continues to make sense. Ideally, the best way to do this is to seal Kyurem in the deeper cave section of the Giant Chasm, a room that only exists in the sequel games. There is one final change that I want to make to the base games, and that is to preserve the context of Black and White 2's ending. This change would be the Elite Four Chamber. In this change, Team Plasma's attack on the Elite Four Chamber caused some structural damage that requires repairs. This also makes the chamber unsuitable for battling. The Pokemon League and Gym Challenges are also now suspended. From a lore perspective, this would be excellent, but this would be horrible from a game design perspective. In the post-game, the Elite Four serves as a means of leveling up your Pokemon consistently. Without them, the only means of leveling up a Pokemon through a trainer battle would be the finite number of trainers across Unova, Cynthia, who you only battle once per save, and Charon, who you only battle once per day. This need of high-leveled, easily rematchable trainers is why Pokemon Scarlet and Violet has the Ace Academy tournament, where you can't rematch the Elite Four, and it's also the reason why I wanted to add the rematchable breeders, including one in Victory Road that will act similarly to those in Black and White 2's Black Tower and White Tree Hollow, but only in the post-game. However, you still want to challenge the Elite Four members as well as Champion Alder. All 5 of them will receive a rematch in various locations across Unova. Chantal can be found inside of Narcine City's library. Grimesley can be found on Udella Bay's coast where he plans to go Sharpedo surfing. Caitlin can be found inside of her villa in Undella Town, but first you need to beat Cynthia. Marshall can be found in Route 7 near the entrance to Twist Mountain. Alder can be found in Victory Road, but 2 conditions need to be met. First, you must have defeated each Elite Four member in their previously mentioned location. Second, you need to have defeated Charon in the postgame. The postgame battle with Charon will be downgraded from a once-a-day match to a once-per-save file match. All 5 matches will use their rematch teams. For an additional rematch, the player only needs to reload the area that they are located at. One final note before our DLC campaign begins. There exists some other legendary Pokemon that one may or may not have captured yet. Do not worry about these. Their roles in Black and White 2 are minor or even non-existent. We shall address them when they're supposed to appear. With all of these changes made to the base games, we need to establish the prerequisites that must be met in order to begin Black and White 2's campaign as DLC. The player must have completed Black and White main story and the post-game arc with Looker and the 7 Sages. In the next part of this series, we shall officially begin Black and White 2's story as DLC to the base games, where we will ask the first few questions. Who gets to be the protagonist in this DLC? What happens to the characters that aren't the protagonists? Where does the DLC start? And finally, how do NPC interactions change without making major changes to Black and White 2's original story? That's all for now. Subscribe for more.